Hello viewer, happy holiday. You're welcome to this edition of Power Wheel, a production of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. Do stay with us as we bring you trending news reports in the power sector. I am Chinwenwa Anyao. The Senate Committee on Privatization has said poverty in Nigeria can be tackled once there is adequate power infrastructure to drive the country's industrialization process.
The committee's vice chairman, Dr. Yahya Abdullahi, made this disclosure when he led his team on an oversight visit to the headquarters of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, in Abuja. On what government should do to accelerate industrialization, the lawmakers said the fixing of the power sector as presently being operated under a private sector system was critical. He said,
once you can be able to build an industrial capacity that gets the production that I think a lot of the partisan rigmarole that is binding all of us in the fight, it's going to come out or not.
He also spoke about the need for generation companies, GENCOs, to connect directly to local gas pipeline infrastructure and why it was essential for GENCOs to buy gas in local currency rather than the present dollar rates.
Why can't we connect, directly the infrastructure that we have, so that we can even pay for the gas in naira instead of selling and buying it in dollars? And that's what is impacting on the resources, the high power cost, that is the unit of power that is going to.
The managing director, CEO of TCN, Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed, had earlier reiterated the nexus between poor electricity and poverty, as he strongly advocated for investment in the power sector to provide adequate electricity that would promote industrialization. He told the visiting delegation that TCN was bent on advancing its transmission wheeling capacity to 20,000 megawatts by the year 2021 under its ongoing transmission rehabilitation and expansion program, TREP. Mr. Mohammed, who also spoke on the privatized power sector, said there was a need to have robust contracts and technical capacity by the DISCOs to drive investments in their power networks.
What they have done is to sign a loose agreement with some people, say technical partnership. What is technical partnership in implementation? Technical partnership is consultancy. I don't have responsibility.
Operators of the generation companies, GENCOs, say they are ready to emulate the plans of the Transmission Company of Nigeria on infrastructure development, especially with the Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program, TREP, being implemented to raise bulk electricity wheeling capacity to 20,000 megawatts by 2021.
Speaking at a meeting with the Association of Power Generation Companies, APGC, the Managing Director CEO of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, and Chairman, West African Power Pool, WAP, Executive Board, Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed, said,
in the implementation of that program, we are on track. As of today, we have not derailed. We believe that we may even achieve the 20,000 megawatts even before the 2021.
Further addressing the GENCOs operators, Mohammed summed the TREP objectives, especially on attaining stable frequency, to take more generated power from the GENCOs.
The Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program, it talks about rehabilitating, stabilizing, and providing necessary redundancy.
Mr. Mohammed lauded operators of the various generation companies, GENCOs, for complying with the grid code and TCN to maintain the transmission grid frequency control and stability at 49.5 Hz and 50.5 Hz in over 1 year.
I want to thank the Association of Generators generally for supporting the system by staying on the frequency control. We achieved 49.5 and 50.5 last year, June. And when we achieved that, many people are saying this thing is going to be temporary. But I want to tell you it was not temporary. It was maintained throughout the period. So this is a good thing that I want to thank you. And also, I want to implore you that we need to do more.
To leverage on the regional markets being established by WAP, he tasked the GENCOs on further improving frequency stability by putting more infrastructure to take over the West African market for energy products.
That product have to be compliant with the certain requirement regulation. And that is why we have to work to achieve the frequency control of 49.80 and 50.20, which is the standard of WAP. We have to do that. And I want to tell you, there's a demand. Engineer Lamu was in the last WAP meeting. There's a demand for our products across the region because we can sell cheaper than other people that are selling in the market. So we should explore the market.
In her address, the Executive Secretary of APGC, Dr. Joy Ogaji, said the vision of the association for 2019 was to work closely with the transmission section of the power sector value chain, as the GENCOs share similar visions and marshal plans.
From all that you have marshaled out, it ties clearly into our vision. So the issue of making the discourse more efficient is one of our goals, because we are tired of sitting on the sidelines.
She urged TCN to schedule another meeting where operators of the discos will also participate to be intimated on the Marshall plans of TCN in advancing the power sector.
The GENCOs are willing to put their machines on free governor, provided it is within the grid specifications. Because we have done a research of the impact of free governor on our machines, which when you come for the meeting, we can also present for you to see.
Let's take a break for a message. Please stay tuned.
Verify that land before you buy it. To drastically reduce the incidence of building under the transmission right-of-way or encroaching on designated TCN land, members of the public are hereby requested to verify land near or along transmission line route before purchasing it. Verification should be made in the Land Development Authority or at the TCN office. This would help in drastically reducing the incidence of building under transmission line right-of-way and save us all the problem of pulling down the structure or truncating transmission line expansion projects in your community due to court injunction. Help us serve you better. Verify that land before you buy it.
You're still watching Power Wheel. As the year 2018 comes to an end, the Transmission Company of Nigeria takes stock of its critical achievements and challenges, as well as projections for the coming year. This interview series features the Managing Director, Mr. Usman Gur Mohammed, as he speaks on these issues. Stay put. TCN has undergone various reforms this year. As the Managing Director, can you speak on groundwork for these feats?
When we came in 2017, February precisely, we launched a program called Transmission Rehabilitation and Expansion Program. The objective of that program is to rehabilitate, stabilize, and expand the grid to at least 20,000 megawatt by 2021. Now, in doing that, there are so many things we need to put in consideration. We need to fix the soft side and the hard side of the organization. But some of the key areas that we need to take care of are these four things. One, we need to have frequency under control. Frequency control is actually the process of matching the generation, balancing the generation and the load. And that process, I can tell you, we achieve frequency control of 49.5 and 50.5. And this has not been achieved in the last 20 years. We have also established a strategy to move to the NAC standard of 49.75 and 50.25. We started implementing that strategy about 2 weeks ago. And if you look at the frequency in the last 2 weeks, you will discover that it's more stable than the previous times. We also need to have a spinning reserve. I can also tell you that if you check the daily broadcast, you will discover that our spinning reserve is either 0 or 40. For a generation of average of 4,000, the spinning reserve, which is supposed to be 10%, is supposed to be at least 400. I also want to tell you that with the support of NAC, we have launched competitive procurement of spinning reserve, which we have actually finished the evaluation. We are writing a report and we are sending to NAC. At the same time, I want to tell you this is the first time in the history of the sector that a competitive procurement of spinning reserve is being done. We have also, for us to also to modernize the grid, we need to have functional SCADA. Nigeria has attempted to have functional SCADA 3 times and we are not mainly successful. We have put in place so many things to ensure that we have a functional SCADA. One of the things we've done is to ease TCN out of certain contracts that we believe that it will not help us to have a functional SCADA. There are some concession contracts that we have to cancel. And also, we have to also come up with a scoping report of SCADA, and we did an international conference on SCADA where we brought all the original equipment manufacturers of SCADA into Nigeria. We also brought 3 power grids of 3 countries, that is Italy, India, and Ghana, to Nigeria, where we did comprehensive review of the scoping report, and that conference actually helped us to improve the scoping report document. And also I can tell you one of the things that conference actually suggested is that we should not move to the procurement of SCADA until we we fix the communication backbone. And that is what we are doing now. We are trying to procure fiber optic and install on certain key lines across the network. And this will happen anytime from now. We are actually waiting for the approval of the ministry to move forward. Now, the critical investment in land and substation that we are doing, we are actually using 3 methods to do the critical investment in land and substation. One method we have employed is the use of in-house staff to install equipment and transformer across the country. I also want to let you know that we have recovered 708 out of 800 containers that were stranded in the port. Some of them were stranded for over 15 years. Some of them has been actually auctioned. We have recovered them. Some of those equipment is what we are using in-house staff to install them. And most of the time, these installations that we are doing are done at a record time of about 10% of the time normally our contractors use. And also the cost of the amount we are spending in those installations are usually about 10% of what we normally pay contractors. So because of that, I can tell you clearly that in the last 1 year, 8 months, we have installed more transformers and equipment more than what was done in previous 10 years. Now we have raised a significant amount of money from multilateral donors also. We have, as at now, we have got $1.57 billion. We are actually discussing with AFD on additional 55 million, which will raise the amount to $1.607 billion.
How has some of the delivered projects impacted on the lives of Nigerians?
We are happy that we are here, and all the support we get from the minister and the president, we are able to do certain things that many people could not do in the past. For example, we have the capacity to take over every contract that they refuse to perform. For example, we forcibly take over Damaturu, and we completed it in a record period of 1 month. This has never happened in the history of Nigeria. If you go to Damaturu now, some of the bulbs that don't light before, they are lighting. Because we have a 330 kV substation there, we forcibly take over that contract. The contract was awarded in 2006, and that contract lingered up to this time. We asked the contractor to complete several letters. We took over and we completed it. It's because we have the enabling environment. That's what we're able to do. Now, if you look at what we did in the last few months, particularly in the Northeast, the president has added 100% of the existing capacity in the Northeast, because the Northeast had only 2 330 kV substations.
TCN executed huge transmission projects this year. How did you tackle right-of-way issues?
We discovered that the easiest way we can work is to see how we can work with the state government. And I can give you an example. As Transmission Company of Nigeria, which is federal government, anywhere we go to work and we get a compensation for right of way, let's say 100 naira. When the state government goes there, it's reduced by more than 40 or 50%. So that's why it became very necessary for us to collaborate with the state government. And this is not unusual because, you know, the state government are the one that owns land. It's not the federal government that owns land. So they are the one that give right of occupancy to people. So they should be able to get these things cheaper than what we can get. And that is why we deliberately, as a matter of policy, decided to enter into collaboration with all state government that we are passing through in terms of our right of way. Some of the state government will actually enter into agreement to bring development to their people. One of the states that I can easily say and I'm proud of the collaboration we did with them is Enugu State Government. We have a 132 kV substation in Suka, which has been lying idle for a long time, more than 4 years. It was completed and there is no power to energy to power it. And Suka was supplied through Oji River, old line. And in fact, Suka is the only place that has 66 kV line in Nigeria. But with the collaboration we did with the state government, we are able to strike a deal with the state government where the state government provide the right of way and we put the electromechanical equipment.
What has been the key constraints of TCN this year?
Staff welfare is a very important thing. First of all, you have to understand that machine doesn't work on its own. Somebody has to tell the machine to work. And the most important stakeholder in any organization is the human beings that are involved. How I wish I even have all the money to pay TCN the best salary that they can get. Unfortunately, we are the most affected by the power sector liquidity crisis. Because if you look at the GENCOs, they are protected by the 701 payment assurance. If you look at the DISCOs, they are protected by the fact that they collect money from the market and pay the market what they like, discretionary. The only people that are left without any support is TCN. The money we get from donors are money that you cannot use it to pay salary. You can only use that money to finance infrastructure. So we don't, our money for payment of salary will depend solely on what we get from the market.
How have your superiors supported your job throughout this period?
If not because of the president, I will not leave my job in African Development Bank to come and work for Nigeria. Because there's no way I can achieve what I planned. Why? Because, you know, the way we are working, we are trying to correct things that are done wrongly. Both inside the organization and outside the organization. Now, how do we correct this kind of thing without the backing of somebody like Buhari? Do you know that with all these projects that we are implementing, there was no single time that the president called me and said, look, how are you awarding the contract? Who is the contractor that get this? He has never. So this is the most transparent human being that I have ever known in my life. And for him, just go there and do the right thing. The president will not tell you, do things like this, but make sure that you follow the law. That is how he is. And that is why we are happy that we have him. When the president came in, what was the capacity of the power sector? You know, the president inherited probably. He was not the one that privatized the discourse. He was not that. And we didn't follow any process. The privatization that was done in Nigeria is a Nigerian model. There's no part of the world that something like that has happened. And he inherited this problem. But even with this problem, when the president came, the capacity of the discourse to pick load is not more than 3,500. The capacity of generation is not more than 4,000 at that time. And the capacity of transmission until February 2017 was 5,000. As at December, when we did the simulation, the capacity of the discourse jumped to 5,124. The capacity of generation before Azura was 7,000. Now with Azura is 7,450. We did the last simulation of the transmission grid last month, and the capacity of the grid is 8,100. Now, how can this be achieved in a period of 3 years? It's only because we have a leader that is exemplary, is determined, and is supported with by people who are also good leaders. For example, the Minister of Power is somebody who is hardworking. I have never seen a hardworking human being like him.
Up next is a chat with the head transmission service provider, TCN, Engineer Victor Adewumi as he speaks of achievements in creating new investments for the transmission infrastructure of the country. How has it been this year in terms of the many transformers and substations TCN completed?
It has not been easy, but we thank God we have been able to record a lot of successes because of the new managing director. He brought in a lot of energy, his own vision for the company, and has been driving everybody. And I can tell you in the last 20 months we've achieved a lot, more than we have even achieved in the last 10 years. When you look at the number of transformers we have been able to commission, a lot of projects we have been able to realize, and so many things. Even apart from the equipment, when you look at the soft side, the new management has been able to improve the welfare of the staff, and for us, everybody is happy. And I can tell you, within the last 1 year, we have been able to raise the capacity of the grid from 7,124 megawatts to 8,096, even though it's not yet officially announced. And I can tell you also that the way we are moving, we are gradually realizing the dream of federal government, the incremental power policy of federal government. We are realizing it gradually. And I can tell you, in the last 1 year, the grid has been very, very stable. We've not been recording system collapses the way we used to have, them. Now, in terms of stability of the grid, the frequency control that we are able to achieve has more or less stabilized the grid. So we no longer have the trippings we used to have it, and I can tell you we are achieving a lot in terms of a grid stability.
What was your experience in delivering critical transmission projects in the Northeast?
In the Northeast, we have a lot of projects. Not only in the Northeast, we have a lot of projects that are scattered all over Nigeria, uncompleted. But particularly in the Northeast, if you look at the Northeast, if you look at our substation there, we only have 2 330 kV substations in the Northeast. One in Yola and one in Gombe. So 2 number 330 kV substation for the entire Northeast is grossly inadequate. So when we came on board, there are 2 particular projects that were ongoing in the Northeast, 330 kV projects, one in Maduguri, the other one in Damaturu. And we look at these projects and we decided that the earlier we realize this project, the better for the Northeast. If you look at power as a whole, power has that singular factor of affecting every community in terms of development. So we believe that if we're able to give the people of Northeast power, perhaps we'll be able to even solve the security challenges we're having there.
What was the magic you and your team employed to record these achievements?
For me, I think my own motivation has been what is going to be my legacy if I leave TCN. When you look at the history of our power supply in Nigeria, you discover that we have been fluctuating, going up, down. When I entered this job, it's like we are already almost at about 2,500 megawatts. For 25 years, we are only able to manage to crawl to about 3,000. So my motivation is to see how we can bring the level of energy, on the grid to about 20,000 in the next 3 years.
We're bringing you more reports in the Power Flash segment. Please don't go away. We hope you had an exciting time with us on this edition. Join us on Power Wheel, same time, same station next week. Until then, you can watch our episodes via our YouTube channel and as well reach us through these other platforms showing on your screen. I am Chinwenwa Anyao. Bye for now.